and adapt to any environment and be a chameleon. Right. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I got to go back to where I'm comfortable. Records, we made a lot of money, but Suge Knight controlled it all. Everything was in his name. He distributed the money, he passed it out, he gave you what he felt.
We're standing at the brink of a revelation so charged, it's shaking the very pillars of hip-hop history. For nearly 30 years, whispers have echoed about that fateful September night in Las Vegas, the night Tupac Shakur's voice was forever silenced in a storm of bullets. And for almost 3 decades, we've clung to the belief that maybe the truth died with him. But tonight, right here, right now, a new wave of investigators is cracking open long-sealed case files. Fresh insiders are finally speaking out, and suddenly the rumor mill isn't just spinning, it's screaming, louder than an arena sound system. You can almost hear that engine roaring once more down the Vegas Strip. Feel the dry desert air clash with pure adrenaline.
Diddy named Diddy 77 times in court documents related to Tupac's
adrenaline. Taste the cold, metallic fear that still lingers in every question that's been left to rot, unanswered. We watched this story reignite with a firestorm sparked by the jaw-dropping claim that Shakur's final ride wasn't some random street ambush, but a high-level, precision-planned execution. A hit ordered, bankrolled, and orchestrated by some of the biggest legends in rap. The same names we once screamed in sold-out arenas and wore proudly on bedroom posters are now being whispered behind closed doors in hush-hush meetings with the LAPD, the FBI, and even a Nevada grand jury. We're hearing talk of bounties passed hand-to-hand in VIP booths, cryptic calls bouncing from coast to coast, and loyalty unraveling into full-blown paranoia.
This grand jury has been receiving evidence for months and has determined there is sufficient evidence to justify the filing of this criminal indictment.
Quicker than a platinum record can crack the top of the charts. And through it all, we can't help but be haunted by the thought that maybe, just maybe, the greatest poet of his era saw it all coming. Every single betrayal, every domino before it fell. We lean in closer as investigators tease the discovery of lost surveillance footage, re-examined ballistic fragments, and long-buried witness statements, each clue forming a chilling conspiracy triangle that connects 3 rap titans, Snoop Dogg, Diddy, and Suge Knight. We flinch at the suggestion that all those public smiles and onstage handshakes may have been hiding private wars worth more than some entire record labels. The tension spikes as insiders claim that just days before the fatal convoy cruised down Flamingo Road, Tupac's inner circle had fractured into rival microcamps, each one paranoid, each one convinced the other might strike first, and each one willing to say or do whatever it took to survive what was coming. Right now, Keefty is battling for bail ahead of a trial to which he has pleaded not guilty. But we can't look away as the hook sinks in deeper. Snoop Dogg, the laid-back, beloved West Coast icon, may have seen the play unfold before anyone else. That night, when he swerved Suge Knight's infamous black BMW, some now say it wasn't luck. It wasn't timing. It was calculated distance, a premonition in motion. Others whisper that Snoop had already begun stepping away from Tupac after a controversial radio interview where he unexpectedly expressed love for East Coast legends Diddy and Biggie. Word is, Pac was livid, storming down hotel hallways, shouting betrayal, feeling stabbed by the man he once called brother. And we start to wonder, was that the first crack in hip-hop's most volatile alliance? The thread that unraveled it all. As if I was scared, Snoop would later say, but the next day, Death Row looked at him like a traitor. And we rewind to those final tense hours before the Vegas fight, when Pac allegedly begged Snoop to fly with him on the private jet, but Snoop suddenly had to stay back and watch the gear. We picture the empty seat, the silence that had replaced once playful studio banter. We imagine that late-night voicemail rumored to be a warning that danger was coming fast, like a dust storm. Did he freeze in disbelief, or did he calmly book a studio session far from the Strip? Was Snoop tipped off? Did he trade truth for protection? Is his legendary survival actually built on a deal that no one wanted to admit ever happened? I am Death Row, Snoop once declared. Suge Knight is Death Row. And yet, the more we dig, the clearer it becomes before it's all said and done. All eyes on me and Machiavelli may end up right back at his door. We flip to Suge Knight's latest jailhouse rants, broadcast straight from a concrete booth in San Diego, and that booming voice, the same baritone that once pushed Death Row artists into diamond status, is now thundering with rage, accusing Snoop of cold-blooded betrayal. You trying to recreate what I built? Suge spits, his voice bouncing off cement walls as guards patrol outside. But instead of building something real, you disappointed the world with nothing but flops. He sneers that Snoop gutted the very soul of Death Row and hisses that the paperwork for the label's ownership transfer still hasn't surfaced. If Suge's just bitter, then why does his fury sharpen every time Tupac's name is brought up? Why does he keep alleging that Snoop tried to spring alleged gunman Keefe D from jails just because the older gang figure was talking too much? From his cell, Suga paints Snoop as a smiling puppet master cutting secret deals with gangs and executives on both coasts, then slipping away untouched while others bled out in courtrooms and ERS. You know, this ain't about rewriting history. Suga says it's about trying to erase it, and that thread, it pulls us straight into Diddy's legal hurricane. Because now every investigator circling the 1996 case is noticing something chilling, how his recent racketeering indictment mirrors rumors that have echoed for decades. According to court filings, former bad boy Lieutenant Kirk Burroughs claims Diddy harbored a dangerous jealousy of Tupac and, allegedly, wired millions through intermediaries to take out the West Coast icon. One bombshell document, unsealed in Vegas, reveals that during a hushed 2009 interrogation, Keefe D told detectives Diddy had offered millions to silence both Shocker and Suge Knight in one fatal sweep. If true, the same mogul, now drowning in federal trafficking charges, could soon be staring down prosecutors, holding fresh witness statements that drag him to the center of the most infamous murder in pop culture history. And then there's that question: why do you say you lost your empire because of Puffy? Why, indeed. We dig through the haze of gossip and find even more firepower. Industry insiders claim a phone call last minute, urgent ping to Diddy's private line, just hours before Tupac's crew left the MGM Grand. Some say Tupac made that call himself, voice tight with suspicion, directly asking if Bad Boy had greenlit a cross-country ambush. Others say it was Snoop nervous, cryptic-handing that the play was active and fishing for a quiet promise of protection. Either way, those phone logs have been subpoenaed again, and insiders swear the timestamps line up so perfectly they could drop both Snoop and Diddy right into the blast radius of probable cause. I think the best way to put it, says one investigator, is that Dwayne Davis was the shot caller for the crew that carried this out. But as we stare deeper into the shadows, Suge Knight's own motives start to surface like jagged glass. Years of lawsuits, bankruptcies, and sworn testimony reveal his desperation. Fearing the fall of death row as Snoop's contracts got tangled and Dr. Dre slipped out the back. Witnesses say Suge clung to Shocker, not just out of loyalty, but because that next album was supposed to save the label's dying finances. So we have to ask, was Suge's fury at Snoop's betrayal just business, or something darker? Did he realize that if both rivals vanished, one to prison, the other to a hit high, could rebuild his empire, no longer contested? It's a cold case, someone mutters. It's lingered for 27 years. And yet, we can't ignore the eerie symmetry. Suge survived the Vegas shooting with barely a scratch. He claimed those bullets were meant for him, not Tupac. But then we learn he'd already taken 6 bullets 2 years earlier, at a pre-VMA party, and walked out grinning, like death itself kept showing up late. That earlier nightclub shootout, once dismissed as chaos, is now under fresh scrutiny. Cold case analysts say it may have been a dress rehearsal. Same clubs, same faces, same suspects caught on security footage. Isn't it strange? Suge can recall every detail of the VMA ambush, but when asked about Tupac's hit, all he remembers are flashes. Investigators are starting to whisper, maybe Suge's memory isn't fuzzy. Maybe it's edited. The fact that this indictment even happened, one says, is a sliver of hope. We just want justice. We scroll through 600 pages of interview transcripts, and Snoop's name is scribbled in the margins far more than anyone expected. One jailhouse informant says Ray told Suge that Snoop openly bragged about helping fund the hit on Shocker. Another file claims Snoop got so paranoid during the East-West feud, he flew home with hidden knives in his luggage, convinced a friendly face might snap mid-flight. We can see the paranoia infecting hotel hallways, video shoots, bodyguards' eyes. We picture Snoop stepping onto that private jet, alone, glancing back at an empty seat meant for Tupac, wondering if the only way to survive was to torch the bridge behind him forever. And when we peek into Diddy's current storm, the echoes get even louder. Federal warrants now allege his team kept over 1,000 bottles of baby oil in luxury suites for secret freak-off rendezvous. That detail sounds absurd until we remember Suge once warned that Diddy didn't invent the game, he refined it. Could the same underground pipeline used for trafficking women and hush money also be how Keefe D's mystery cash was moved to a waiting hit squad? Now, agents are reportedly matching hotel ledgers from the mid-90s to documents seized in recent raids. If the numbers line up, the fallout could crash through every platinum plaque still hanging on Bad Boy's walls. Any case that's been frozen for 27 years comes with its challenges. But prosecutors say they're confident the justice system will finally deliver. We skim the latest headlines and land on Suge Knight's failed attempt to overturn his 28-year sentence, rejected by a judge who called his evidence not sincere. Suge's lawyer fires back, calling the ruling outrageous and hinting at buried testimonies and institutional cover-ups. We can't help but feel that concrete walls haven't dulled Suge's hunger for relevance. Every time the reinvestigation gains traction, Suge grabs a phone, dials into a podcast, and throws more fire onto Snoop's name. Some call it petty vengeance. Others say it's strategic lighting enough fuses to ensure the entire top table goes down with him. Because if Suge burns, he wants the whole industry in flames. We keep circling back to the ever-whispered theory that Tupac Shakur might still be alive, hidden away on some sunlit coastline under an alias. Because with this story, no twist ever feels too wild. Every time the case returns to the spotlight, so do the sightings. Blurry photos of a bald man in Cuba, shaky footage of a raspy voice in Malaysia, cryptic social media posts signed a we roll our eyes until we read that a private pathologist has filed a petition to examine the original autopsy photos, claiming Tupac's tattoo appears misaligned by half an inch. It sounds absurd until you remember this case has never played by the rules. In a world chasing views, nothing fuels engagement like the fantasy of resurrection. So if I go to jail, you need to be handcuffed too. And we return to that moment in 1996, when Snoop publicly praised Biggie and Diddy on the radio. What sounded like laid-back media chatter detonated like dynamite in Shocker's hotel room. Witnesses say Tupac was livid pacing, fists clenched, whispering that loyalty meant nothing in a world that never stopped filming. Suga tried to set up a studio mediation, but neither rapper showed. The tension mutated from lyrics to bullets. Every diss track became a loaded weapon. Hit 'em up roared from car stereos. Drop a gem on M punched back. And record store clerks quietly started keeping body armor behind the counter. Hip-hop had turned into a coliseum, and artists were writing rhymes with one hand and their wills with the other. We combed through the paperwork tied to Death Row's 2022 Salient. There it is. Snoop's signature splashed across the bold press release. But Suge Knight won't accept it. He demands to see the money trail. He points to shell companies and loopholes and insists the entire transfer was a front engineer to hide old sins beneath new corporate umbrellas. So we ask, was the deed real, a legacy play for Snoop? Or was it designed to bury truths Suga swears are still radioactive? If I had never met him, Suga says of Snoop, I'd never be caught up in all this. We flip to the trial calendar and mark the date February 9th, 2026, when alleged shooter Keefe D. finally faces a Nevada jury. Insiders say prosecutors are stacking a witness list full of big names, retired detectives, former bad boy insiders, even a couple Hollywood elites who attended the MGM fight. But the name-rattling defense team's most AHL mystery witness with first-hand knowledge of a studio meeting where cash changed hands. Some whisper it might be Snoop cornered by contradictions, testifying under subpoena. Others suggest it's Diddy himself gambling on limited immunity to sidestep harsher federal charges. We picture the courtroom steps, cameras crowding every inches. Rap's royalty, now gray at the edges and billionaire rich, is forced to revisit a night they've spent decades trying to forget. You pull a gun, you use it. But we can't shake the feeling that none of the power players really want the full truth. A closed case might mean justice, but it could also mean reputations shattered, streaming pulled, tours canceled. For executives, the perfect outcome is perpetual chaos, off mystery to sell documentaries, not enough facts to kill legacies. That's why every leak triggers both viral headlines and frantic damage control. Lawyers bark cease and desist orders. Publicists vanish social posts. Artists drop cryptic emojis, then delete them 20 minutes later. We zoom out and see the money, tens of millions of dollars tied to just one superstar's name. In those days, loyalty, vengeance, and profit were all traded like currency. If Tupac lived, death row soared. If he died, the label still cashed in insurance. Sales spikes, myth-making. It's sickening to imagine. But how many boardroom pitch decks featured Tupac's face color-coded for every possible outcome, even the unthinkable? We made a business decision to keep it cool. One insider says, I don't hate him, he don't hate me. And that's the most unsettling part. Maybe the reinvestigation won't crown a villain or a hero. Maybe everyone was both. Maybe Snoop did warn Tupac but was ignored. Maybe Diddy did pay for protection but lost control. Maybe Sugi did sense something coming but underestimated the blast. The deeper we go, the more this saga warps into a full-blown tragedy where envy, ambition, and fear spun out until no one remembered who started the fight. And through it all, Tupac's voice still echoes from Bluetooth speakers worldwide. Prophetic, chilling. Is there a future for a gangster? We're starting to believe. He already knew the answer. The temperature drops as we return to the present. This investigation isn't over. Detectives are still digging, cross-referencing flight logs, pulling bank statements, breaking apart alibis that once seemed airtight. Grand jury subpoenas are reportedly reaching into luxury car dealerships in Beverly Hills and pediatric clinics in Queens. One lead connects to a relative, who connects to financial records, which link to an offshore account, which points right back to a certain 6'4" executive doing time in San Diego. The net is tightening faster than some icons can delete tweets or transfer assets overseas. I rode the whole flight like this. One source says, hoping someone would try Meso, I could stab every single person on that plane. And then the twist that could crack the case wide open. Rumors swirl that investigators have quietly floated immunity deals to both Snoop and Diddy, inviting them to testify against each other. If that's true, the chessboard's about to explode. Picture Snoop on the stand, detailing the exact sum he says Diddy pledged for a hit. Then Diddy, clapping back with receipts, alleging Snoop greenlit the play. Picture Suge Knight watching from a prison video, feed grinning like a man who set this chain reaction in motion decades ago. And the jurors, some of them weren't even born when All Eyes on Me dropped. Now they'll be asked to sort truth from legend, while the very songs that made these men superstars echo in the courtroom air. This is a 5.5-hour flight. Don't say a single word to me. Not one. That's how one conversation began, full of noise, saying everything and nothing. We pause, drawing breath, realizing each new revelation doesn't feel like a clue, it feels like a spark, landing on dry brush. The stakes here go far beyond any single conviction. We've already seen tattoos lasered off, streaming numbers nosedive overnight, and long-awaited biopics shelved because one leaked document flipped the narrative hero to villain. In one click, morality clauses are showing up in tour contracts. Playlists are quietly shuffled, and brand managers now whisper that it might be safer to book a fire-breathing circus act than a classic hip-hop headliner. The irony is cruel. The same legends who once boasted about rolling on 22-inch rims now lie awake at night hoping their past doesn't roll over them. We step back and survey the wreckage: shattered friendships, collapsed empires, iconic labels reduced to faded merch booths, and a generation of artists who inherited not just platinum chains but a blueprint for paranoia. And standing above it all like a ghost carved from sound and smoke is Tupac Shakur, charismatic, flawed, visionary, still commanding headlines from beyond the grave, still forcing this industry to stare itself down in the mirror. We begin to accept a hard truth. Maybe there will never be an ending that satisfies everyone. When the truth finally surfaces, it may be uglier than any rumor and sadder than any rap verse. 3 law firms on retainer. One insider mutters, I don't know how much money's coming in, but I do know how much is going out every single month for Diddy. Make no mistake, the reinvestigation is gaining speed. Names are about to be carved into court calendars, and the next few months may rewrite the footnotes beneath every West Coast anthem and every bad boy classic. One thing is certain, the past isn't done with us. And when those courtroom walls finally crack open, the echoes will shake turntables from Compton to Brooklyn. We end tonight's chapter with a final, unsettling punch to the gut. The deeper we dig for truth, the more the line vanishes between protector and predator, brother and betrayer, legend and cautionary tale. So we leave you with this: if the full conspiracy is laid bare, will hip-hop's empire stand taller for finally facing its shadows? Or will those shadows collapse, the very foundations we've danced on for decades? Let that question spark the storm. Until next time, stay alert, stay loud, and never, ever look away.